ate noodles with no packet. Cereal with the canned milk.
That's why I just run away from you. Alright, so Snoop Dogg decided, hey guys, I want to release a video game. Let's find out why.
Video games by directing this mind-blowing new game that I'm starring in. You know, and
nigga, we can't see that. We can't see that. We can't see that. What the fuck? These niggas at 106 in Park, man. They sit all these little niggas in the fucking stand and audience and tell them clap this, laugh this. Jeez, I couldn't even read that and I'm seeing it on screen.
Let me give you an exclusive preview of it right now. Didn't I tell you Spike TV had the mad hookups?
Alright, so you guys know that we love to explore some canceled games or dive a little bit deeper sometimes. And one that's really caught my attention for a few months now has been Fear and Respect. And it's one that I've wanted to get around to, and we finally were able to do so. So in the mid-2000s, during a massive surge of open world crime games, which of course was inspired by the success of GTA San Andreas, a new game was about to release with ambitions to kind of leave its stamp on the market. It was titled Fear and Respect. The project was announced in 2004 by Midway Games and immediately drew attention for its unique creative direction and its cultural.
Right, but aren't they using the same maps as GTA San Andreas? But it looks pretty nice.
Focus. Unlike many of its competitors, the game aimed to deliver a more grounded and cinematic portrayal of life in South Central Los Angeles, blending interactive storytelling with influences from film and hip-hop culture, and film being the key element here. At the center of Fear and Respect was a collaboration with Snoop Dogg, who would lend his likeness and voice to the main character, Goldie. The project was even elevated more so by the
my goodness, that nigga really didn't understand how to drive his whip, dog. That was embarrassing. Look at this. What the fuck?
Influences from film and hip-hop culture. And
I
film
get it. They're shooting at you. I get it.
Being the key element here. At the center of
Then the nigga drives off. That was a good driving off animation, by the way. Shout outs to that.
Fear and Respect was a collaboration with Snoop Dogg, who would lend his likeness and
But like, check this. Like, you're already gone at this point. You're already gone at this point. All you gotta do is make a turn.
voice to the main character.
How did you swerve like that?
Goldie. The project was even elevated more so by the involvement of John Singleton, the director from Boys in the Hood. Singleton's role as a creative force behind the story was a way to bring authenticity and emotional weight to the game's depiction of South Central life. Players would have to navigate a world where their choices influence how they were perceived by others, building either fear or respect amongst the people around them, which obviously hence the title. At the heart of the experience was a story on survival.
Fear and Respect. Isn't this like, what's that thing? True Crime Streets of LA, another open world game similar to this sort of thing. True Crime Streets of LA, good game, played that game, fire.
Identity and power within a ever-changing landscape. Players would take on the role of Goldie, a young man navigating the complex social and territorial dynamics of South Central LA. The narrative was designed to reflect real-world pressures where every decision, whether to resolve conflict through violence or taking the higher road, would shape Goldie's reputation.
Right, so it's almost using, in a way, it's using elements of Fable and things like that to sort of play this sort of encapsulating open world aspect, right? Which is interesting because at that time, I don't even think Fable had, let's be very careful what we say. Fable might have dropped actually at this point. So, and this was early on when we were getting all these sort of open world landscapes on systems and platforms that could barely even handle the loaded. So although we had these open world games, the games weren't that detailed, right?
And relationships. Rather than following a strictly linear storyline, the game intended to offer branching narrative style, allowing players to define their path through alliance and their war against rival gangs. Themes of loyalty, consequence, and community were expected to drive the story forward, presenting a more personal story, especially
for 2000 and whatever 4, not bad graphics.
One that maybe at the time these crime games weren't taking. Now, beneath the surface of this different design, Fear and Respect faced a series of challenges that would ultimately lead to its cancellation. By the mid-2000s, the open world crime genre had become increasingly crowded, with Rockstar Games dominating the space, obviously through GTA San Andreas, GTA.
Yeah, but I think, to be honest, this would have still made a mark, right? Because it's attached to Snoop Dogg. Anything attached to Snoop would have had, it would have probably been really niche, and people would have played it and realized how good it was, or it would have completely flopped. But I think if you're already going to go through all that time to generate the graphics and make the graphics and hire the teams and the studio to actually build the game, you might as well release it, man.
By city, true crime was around, and it was really competing against an established franchise. And this would place a immense pressure on basically any new entries, especially those that attempted to innovate and change the formula that was already pretty successful with different audiences. Now, at the same time, Midway Games was navigating some internal and financial challenges. The company was investing in multiple large-scale projects during a period of transition, a lot of people would say.
But also, I will say this. Making an entire video game based on hood gang culture is crazy. That's crazy because hood gang culture, we already don't want it. We already don't like it. Now now not only, this is what I said, that like GTA roleplay, niggas want to be gangsters, bro. Niggas want to be gangsters. They'll spend the money to look like a gangster and act like a gangster in a role-playing video game. Jeez. Why does everybody want to be so hard, bro? Like, damn.
In the gaming industry, as developers began shifting focus towards more advanced hardware and rising production costs, the loom of the next generation was also over them. This shift made ambitious narrative-driven games like Fear and Respect increasingly risky due to their nature and how overcrowded it already was. The problem was that development began to slip, and reports suggested that the project
Midway Games at the time was also a powerhouse. They were making a lot of the wrestling games at that time.
It experienced delays and struggled to meet internal expectations, both creatively and commercially. There were also indications that the game's identity, even though it was different, posed a lot of challenges. Its grounded, more film-inspired approach and emphasis on realistic themes limited its mass market appeal compared to...
No, this is what I'm saying. These studios don't always get it right, bro. They should have released this game. It probably would have done really well, or it probably would have tanked, but who cares? Give it a chance.
To the more exaggerated and chaotic tone of something like GTA. In an environment where publishers were prioritizing more commercial success, I think this contributed a little bit to the game's cancellation. So by 2006, the combination of market saturation, internal pressures, development hurdles led Midway Games to silently cancel the project. Now, again, no single factor was cited as the definitive cause of the cancellation, but the decision went on to show that nothing was guaranteed, even when you had a big name attached to a project. So I think that Fear and Respect was a unique looking game. It was a game that definitely reminded me a lot of something like GTA San Andreas, but having Snoop Dogg in there and having someone like John Singleton a part of the project maybe could have brought something different. It could have become a classic. It could have been one of those games that we talked about today and remembered fondly if it were to have released. I think even though the market was saturated at the time, I think it could have found a home. I think it really...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That was my whole point, is amongst the rap fans, the weed heads, the niggas in LA, all those little sub niches, it would have found a fan base there, and it probably would have been a cult classic, bro. But y'all didn't give it the opportunity to, which is just wild to me, man.
Could have. I mean, if things like True Crime found a home, if things like Scarface found a home, if the games like The Godfather found a home back in the day, I really believe that something like this could have. I don't know, maybe it was too close to San Andreas. Maybe, San Andreas obviously would have probably blown it out of the water still, but this could have been maybe a more intimate, personal take on the world. I don't know. It seemed very interesting, and it was something that I wanted to dive into a little bit deeper. So I hope you guys enjoyed. What do you think of Fear and Respect? Did you know it was out there? Were you excited about it when it was coming out? And are you disappointed that it never got to see the light of day?
I'm disappointed that they're not backing more black projects. I'm disappointed that this didn't get released. It should have got released. I think it would have done really well. I think it would have portrayed a certain aspect of the video game culture that we weren't ready for, and that certain element of being able to have your choices affect the gameplay was something that most studios weren't experimenting with at the time, right? It's a bold jump into that next frontier, and Snoop Dogg would have been the perfect person to do it with. Really would. Really, that would have been a cool game. I bet you it would have. Alright guys, that concludes it for today. Let's get into the next video, alright?